Inform TV, we're at the Goodwill Store in Alexandria today. We've got in the background from Kristen Faber, the General Manager of the store here, Lake Agnes that we're looking at. And as longtime viewers remember, I challenged the people in St. Paul that they should put a spiral on the roof up here, an observation deck or whatever. As you can see, we got a beautiful view as well as a beautiful young lady, Kristen Faber. Kristen, tell us what's going on here at the store and what have you experienced and how long you've been in business now? For a full quarter? How many months?
Yep, so about 6 months. Well, let's see, we opened in November, so about 4 months now.
Okay.
So we've been open. So far we've experienced some pretty good traffic. We are busy. We often have times where we have lines that are waiting outside, people waiting outside when we open the doors most every day. I like to tell people it was 18 below one Sunday and we still had people waiting outside to come in and find their unique goods here in Goodwill. So what I love is that we have a lot of people that are regulars and we know them by name and they're in here a couple times a week, sometimes a couple times a day, sometimes every day, and they seem to find good deals and unique finds every day.
You know, you had some projections, our Goodwill did, I'm sure, as far as how big an area you're going to cover. Can you give us a little idea of how big an area you covered? Do you have a way of tracking it? Do you ask for people's zip codes, or tell us about that?
You know, we don't really have a way to track it, but here's what I can tell you is that we, the other stores, the other Goodwill stores that are closest to us would be in St. Cloud and then in Wilmer. So we really draw, I think even from that area, just because we're a newer store, we're a newer prototype, so we look different. Our signing is different, it's a lot cleaner, and you know, than anything up north from here. There's nothing, there's one in Fergus Falls, but they're not associated with the Easter seals, and then the next closest would be over in Duluth. So we have a pretty broad area that we draw folks from here in our store.
So do you think you tend to be drawing people more from the north then if you don't have anybody to the north?
I think it's mostly from the north, yep. I did talk to a gal this morning who drove up here from the St. Cloud area, but that's more of a rarity, I would think, than anything.
And as far as, how are you doing as far as projections of sales and in relation to what you thought you would do for the first 3 months of the being open?
Absolutely. So that is very exciting for me and great for Goodwill Easter Seals, and I think shows the excitement in the community. So with our forecast that Goodwill Easter Seals has given us for the first several months, we've had a steady 30% over that projected forecast that they've given us for sales. So we've done very well. The nice thing about that is that we are able to have more people employed in our store because our sales are better than anticipated.
You know, I asked you a little heads up question before we started this interview as far as, and I'm sure people are wondering, from an hourly wage basis, as far as now you've got a staff and maybe you, like any new business, had to do a little shuffling of people in and out. Can you give us a little idea what the average wage earner that works in the store here gets per hour?
Absolutely. So that's one of the nice things I think about the Goodwill is that everybody starts at $9.50 an hour. So
okay.
Everybody in my store is working here as an hourly employee is earning $9.50 an hour.
Do you have any incentive program or end of the year or overtime? Give us a little thought process that way.
Yep, so we have an annual review process like a lot of businesses do, and at that time, employees are eligible for a raise based upon their performance in the store.
One of the other things we talked about a little bit, when people call here to the store, on the tape it talks about what Goodwill does as far as training people. Give us a little thought as far as how do you conceive or what type of training do you do for people that need a job in the area? Is it working in the store or is it more than that?
So the teaching and training programs that we offer here, that's really what Goodwill is all about, and that's the most exciting part. So we come into a community, we get started, and as we're doing that, we have Shelley Hughesby is the name of the woman. Many people have probably met her in town. She comes in and does a needs assessment, and she's the one that runs the programs and services here. And what she does is figures out where the gaps are in our community, who needs help overcoming a barrier in order to get them employed in the community. And a barrier can be anything. A lot of people think of Goodwill Easter Seals and they think of disabled people. We do more than that. So we can help somebody who has a lack of education. We can help somebody who might have a learning disability or a language barrier, a difficult history. There are a lot of different things that we can help with. So what we are doing right now is we're actually looking for a case manager in order to run those programs here. And what that individual will do is take referrals from agencies within town that work with individuals and trying to help them become independent. And they basically will do an assessment in our store. So that individual will work in our store. They'll look like any other Goodwill employee that you'll see here. They will get paid an hourly wage in order to work here, and we will determine what their needs are. And then that case manager will work with them to set up a program to help them overcome those barriers and ultimately to help them become employed. Now, we would love to have everybody in the world, that we teach and train to work here, but that's not necessarily our goal. Our goal is just to have them get something they're interested in that they can succeed at, help bring them to the next level so they can get promoted or get those raises within their job and ultimately retain that job long term.
Does Goodwill have any training film or video that either I could air to show people a sample of, or that a person that's out of work that needs to improve some skill? Do they have anything like that, Kristen?
I think it's all based upon the individual. We do so many different barriers that we help people with that it's really on an individual basis. I don't know off the top of my head. I will tell you when they come into the store and we do the needs assessment in our store and have them working here, we run them through an orientation like we would any other employee here. So they'll go through our orientation video, and if they're working on the sales floor, they'll watch our sales floor video for those training pieces.
Yeah, you probably already mentioned it, but as the store matures, how many people did you say you have working here right now, or didn't you say that?
I have not said it yet. So we have 41, including myself, that work here right now. And then once we start getting our participants in as well, the goal, the sky's the limit with our goal with participants. So it's all about getting the referrals in and being able to help them with the gaps that are in our community that we're finding.
Does there tend to be a square foot rule within the Goodwill stores as far as how many employees they tend to need?
No, it's not based upon square foot. It's really based upon the sales that we generate. So the more sales that we do, the more employees that we need. It's sales and payroll are very closely related, and our payroll is a percentage of the total sales that we do. So then we fill that payroll with the hourly employees that way.
What is payroll percentage compared to sales? Do you have any numbers on this store?
So we're 36% of our total sales is what our payroll is.
Okay.
That's typical in Goodwill Easter Seals for a new store because there's a lot of learning curves and just people trying to learn the job. At a typical store, it would be retail store, it would be closer to 29-30%.
So you think that'll come down then as the percentage-wise will come down, or will it go up?
There's a couple of pieces there. If the business stays stays like it is and remains flat, I guess you could say, into next year, we probably would anticipate not necessarily all the way down to that 29%, but maybe a little bit lower. The thing that's really nice is when we're beating sales like we are by 30%, then we get to add on top of that.
Okay, so you are beating sales projection by 30% today. And obviously, a lot of times in a new business with a new building and a new location, the first 2 months are gung-ho and then things can trail off.
Yep.
You're seeing just the opposite, or?
We've been pretty steady. So we were beating forecasts by 100 and some odd percent at the beginning. But for the last about 2.5 months, we've been a pretty steady 30%. And I've been talking with a lot of folks in Alexandria. And what I know about Alexandria is that our population triples in size in the summer.
Right.
And a lot of the retail businesses here experience that same growth. So we're planning for that, and that's what my project is right now, is to anticipate the growth coming to the community.
How are you planning for what do you got in store for the summer rush, so to speak?
Well, here I have thoughts right now. So the nice thing about Goodwill Easter Seals right now is we're in we've been around forever, but we're in a new phase of growth and development, I would say. So I've partnered with some people at the Chamber of Commerce to get some economical numbers on where we are as a community, and really hardcore numbers for the retail sales. And then I'm partnering with my boss to try to figure out if we can do some seasonal staffing, because I anticipate we'll see the seasonal staffing or the seasonal sales jump up, but then coming back out of the school or going into school year, we'll probably see that trend down a little bit, and we want to be able to match that curve.
Now, people saw on the news, and we talked just for a second before we start taping here, how does this store compare to the new one that got a lot of Twin City TV press, that layout and their sales and projections compared to this one?
So their layout is going to be similar to what ours is. The unique thing about that store is it's a double-decker store.
Okay.
So it's a 2-story building. So it's much more square footage than what we have. They're a much larger business as well. They're on University. They have a high traffic center right there. You know, the monorail runs right through there as well. So,
okay.
So they're much larger than we are. But the fun thing is the new lookout, the layout, the painting, the signing that you see in our stores is the same prototype that you'll see in that store as well.
So from a standpoint, people would be wondering, how do the product that you sell here, what are you finding as far as, I think I jotted down some notes here, what percentage of what you're selling comes in as donations locally compared to sales in general? If people haven't been here yet, on the west side of the store here on 3rd Avenue in downtown Alexandria, you've got a donation driveway where you can drop things off, and then obviously you've got a full block kind of covered here for parking. Give us a little idea of what you're selling compared to what you're receiving.
Absolutely. So that's actually a spot where I'd like to see more. So I'll give you an idea. So yesterday was, Tuesday, and we had 76 cars that came through and gave us donations yesterday.
Okay.
That's up from where we've been. We've probably been in the 40s during the weeks. I would say we're probably 100% of what we get in for donations from here, if it's the condition that we're looking for and something that somebody can reuse, will go out to the floor. We don't send anything back to the Twin Cities. Our local donations are our best donations. When we cannot meet the demand for the sales that are on the floor with the donations coming in, is when we reach out to the Twin Cities and say, hey, we need some more product. So I would say through these winter months, it's probably 50-50. We're probably getting 50% of this stuff locally, and the other 50% is coming from the Twin Cities just to meet the demand of the sales here.
What in most of the stores is the mix? Does it tend to be 50-50?
In the winter, it's about 50-50. Think about it. You're in your house. You're not going, in Minnesota, we're not going through our closets and going through our garages to clear out stuff that we no longer need. So once the weather starts to pick up, which we've already started to see, and it gets nicer out, people get that fever to clean stuff up, and they can bring it in.
So to date, one of the things as far as on the business end, are you maybe a little bit disappointed on the donations to date compared to the incredible response you're getting on the retail end?
You know, I would agree with that. I think that's something that we talk about as a team a lot, is how can we increase the donations, and do people know that we're here? Do they know how easy it is to donate, and what can we do to bring more of those donations through our doors?
And when you bring things in from the Twin City or the Goodwill warehouse, whatever, how do you categorize? Do you bring in, say, 40,000 pounds, a semi-load of goods per week, or 2 semi-loads? How does all these different shapes and sizes fit as far as bringing into here to sell?
Sure. So we have a semi-truck that comes to our store, and we have 2 days a week that we have the option to have a truck come here. Now, if we're full of donations in our back room, then we're not going to have that truck come here. It's all about, again, we're a nonprofit organization. It's about saving money and spending it where necessary. But when it does come in, we can request, we call them Gaylords. They're big, huge boxes that basically come in, and they're full of either your clothing items, or they're full of your household good items. Right now, they're not pre-sorted. It's something that we're working on. So it's just a mix. It's just a grab bag, just like if somebody were to drive through and drop something off. But let's say on a regular basis, we probably ask for 14 huge boxes of clothing, and we ask for about 30 big boxes of our household goods.
Okay, and then from a standpoint of in the store itself, obviously you and your employees here are talking to customers, whether it's a checkout stand or if they need help at a particular size. What's the number one thing to date that you're getting from feedback as far as this is what we really like, but could you kind of address this? Any thought that way in products or services?
You know, in terms of products, I think people are surprised by what they find here. I will tell you, working here, I'm surprised by what people donate. We are so fortunate with the donations that we get. It's either people don't know what else to do with them, or they really care enough about our cause. So we have a lot of unique things, and that's what I hear about in terms of the product. In terms of just the store in general, we've been hearing a lot of great things. Number one, I just had a conversation yesterday with a customer who said this is not what I expected in a thrift store when she walked in. We're organized, we're clean, we try really hard to have a lot of good displays that will call out those really neat items that we find in our donations. So we work really hard to keep it neat and organized, and my team teases me, but I always use the word shoppable, because we have to make sure that as a customer you don't have to work too hard to come in and find something that you're looking for.
Can you give us a little idea on gross sales out of the store to date, or is
you know, I can't specify in specific numbers, but we're comparable with like the Wilmer store, the store in Wilmer, and they've been around for quite some time. We're doing very wide. So we have 10 stores in our district, and we're right in the middle of the pack. Okay. And most of the stores in our district are in the Twin Cities, so I think that's pretty good.
Give us a pie chart example of what, on the first 4 months here, if you divided a pie chart up, what percentage would be in women's clothing, kids' clothing, those type of items?
So let's see. So I'll split up the whole store, clothing versus household goods.
Yeah, give us an idea.
We are at 50% in both categories. Half of what we sell is the household goods, and half of what we sell is the clothing.
On a gross dollar basis?
On a gross dollar
it
basis.
Splits that evenly.
Yep. And the interesting thing is when you look at most Goodwill stores, most Goodwills are more in the 75-25 range. The 75 being the clothing. Okay. So I think that's fantastic.
But when you walk out in your store, aren't you about 2/3 clothing or apparel and maybe 1/3 household, or not?
We are. Yes, so we have. So when I talk about when we are asking for more of those household items, that's why, because we have so many people that are buying those household items, and we focus much more time, or say more hours into producing those hardlines goods that we call them, than we do the clothing, because it's a lot of demand for it.
And what's your thought for the reason for the demand for the household items more so than the clothing?
Here's my personal take.
That's what we're looking for.
I think that we do a pretty good job of displaying it in the store, and we work really, really hard to try to keep things as neat and organized as possible. I always think of it as myself as a customer. How hard do I want to work to find something to buy? And so we try to bring those items out that we find that are unique and different, that might catch somebody's eye, so it's not too hard to look for, and we try really hard to keep our areas neat and organized so they're easier to shop. You don't have to dig to find the things that you're looking for.
What about from a standpoint of a family or a shopper, an individual comes in here, mm-hmm. and you can just see their need of clothes, mm-hmm. their need of everything, and they've got a $5 bill on them. Mm-hmm. Do you have a way of helping those people, of saying, I got a little apartment, or I got a little trailer, and I need this, and this? Any thoughts that way?
A couple of things. So locally, we try to use partnerships within the community in order to utilize other people that are out there providing that service already. If they're looking for clothing and things like that, obviously we have those items here. I try to give them a strategy in how to shop our store so that they can save the most money. The other thing is we have a ton of resources, obviously, within our headquarters in order to tap into if we need to, but I like to try to keep things as local as possible and utilize partnerships here, so everything can stay right here.
In our first interview, when the store was just open, and you give us a little background of yourself. You work for Target, mm-hmm. and so obviously you're a talented young lady, and can you give us any little thought or comparison with the big shake-up in Target? Were you and some of your employees, or co-workers, I should say, probably at that point in time, kind of seeing that coming, or did it kind of shock you? Yeah.
Well, here's what I will say. So I was with Target for 9 years, mm-hmm. and there's ebbs and flows in the business as there are in anything. And sometimes you have to make tough decisions in order to be financially responsible. And I think that's my take on what's going on here. And if I were still working in Target, those are the kinds of things I would be explaining to my team and sharing the whys behind it. A lot of it comes down to financial responsibility, and it comes down to efficiencies within the workplace. And I'm glad that I'm here. I feel like I have good work-life balance and it's just a different atmosphere in thrift versus retail. Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, people are watching, and probably told me before, but I forgot it, that young lady is actually better on the camera, Al, than you are. So explain to us one of the reasons why you're a little better on the camera. Where was your educational background from?
I actually went to college at Concordia College up in Moorhead, Minnesota. And that's one of the things I think is funny. I actually studied broadcast journalism, and that's what my degree is in mass communications. I was fortunate enough to spend time, I covered a lot of sports, and that was my thing. And I spent time at the Fox News station up there. And if you can believe this, coming out of college, I thought, well, I don't want to work those hours, and here I am in retail working nights and weekends. So just a different passion, I guess.
Maybe you can give my audience also, what is a typical worker that works here, including yourself? Mm-hmm. Does everybody have to work a Saturday or you're open Sunday too, right?
We are open Sundays.
Maybe
Mm-hmm.
give us your hours right now.
Sure.
Then we'll expand on that a little bit.
Okay. So our hours, we're open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m. Our donations are always open an hour before the store opens, but they're open until we close. On Saturdays, we're open from 9 until 6. And then on Sundays, we're open from 11 until 6.
And so how do you then handle this multi-shift kind of deal? Because
Mm-hmm.
you're basically two-shift store, right?
Yep.
Or how do you handle it?
Yep. So we're a two-shift store, so we usually have an opening crew and we have a closing crew. Right away, we staffed both basically the whole day pretty heavy. Number one, we were training, we're learning what we're doing. Number two, we just didn't know where the business trends were going to fall. I will tell you that our business is typically from 11 till about 5:30 p.m. During the week, and actually even on the weekends. Sundays, it's kind of crazy. Sunday we open at 11 and people are ready to go and shop at 11. So really, once that 5:30, 6 o'clock hour hits, we're pretty slow in here, so that's where the majority of the people are working, are in those hours of the day. We rotate weekends, so we try our darndest to give everybody every other weekend. It's retail, so we need to be here on the weekends, but everybody has a life and a family, so we try to be cognizant of that as well. We have some people who prefer to work just nights because they're working other jobs during the day, which works out very handy for those who would prefer not to close at night. So
obviously, the state's going to be changing minimum wage level here in August with the jump. Is the Goodwill stores, are they tied to being above minimum wage? So will you be going up because of that, or because of the fact that you're already over minimum wage, it won't affect you?
So at this time, we're going to stay where we are. There hasn't been any discussions about raising it any further. So as far as I know right now, we're going to stay where we are.
So with 41 employees, how many hours, if you divide those 41 employees, or of the 41 employees, how many do you have salaried employees compared to hourly employees of those 41?
Everybody is an hourly employee.
Okay.
So we spend about right around 1,000 hours a week on payroll.
Oh, okay, okay. That's kind of what I was wondering. And obviously you're a busy lady, and I gotta apologize a little bit to the audience. We wanted to show beautiful Lake Agnes in the background. I got plans for getting a trail all the way around that lake and a bridge over the gap there, and so I wanted to show that and to show the people. So maybe we don't get quite the great complexion out of Christine, but yeah, we just wanted to show that background, and I think the old Sony will adjust. With that, give us some closing thoughts, and we'll let you go back at your day, and we thank you for talking to Inform TV.
I guess I'm just so surprised. I'm surprised and thrilled that people find our store easy to shop. I'm surprised and pleased that people are starting to understand what we're about and are in support of it. And a lot of people get asked when they check out, if they'll help support people for work in our community. The really neat thing about that is that money, that extra 10, 15, 95 cents, whatever it is that you choose to donate, goes right into our programs and services here. So it is all about the people that we're putting back into the community, and we're just here to help create that mission and make it possible.
Thanks for seeing that my audience is informed on how the new Goodwill store is operating.
Thank you very much.